Okay, so now we're in Lumion. I want to show you some tips and tricks about this software. So you can kind of see over here on the right hand side, there are different uh, like hints on what keys do what. I'll walk through most of them, but to move around, you're going to use your right mouse button to you're going to click and hold it and move your mouse around to look. And that's going to be essentially your head, if you will, to look. And then you can move, just like in a video game with WASD, or I believe the arrow keys even. I like to use WASD, and that'll move you around somewhat slowly. If you see I am moving. You can also, I'm just pressing and holding W, and I'm using my mouse to kind of point in the direction I want to move. You can also use your scroll wheel to move a little faster as you look. If you have one of those free spinning mouse wheels, you can really move fast. The other thing that you can do to move a little faster is you can hold down Shift and the space bar. And that'll move you around really fast without. And then the only other keys for movement that you'll need to know are Q and E. So if you're holding down your mouse button again, and you hold Q, you'll move up. E will move you straight down. And so that's just kind of basic navigation. Your objects, as you import them, I do want to show you. I placed that object. I have imported model selected, therefore I can select that object. Notice where this blue dot is. That is my grab point for the object. This becomes very important when it comes to animations that I can show you later. But that grab point, if we were to go back to Revit and go to, let's say, a top view and show all of our hidden elements, notice that grab point is the same as the origin point in Revit. They're the exact same spot. So if you want an item to have its grab point in the center, that item needs to be right on top of the origin point in Revit. It's the same in SketchUp. In SketchUp, you have your XYZ axis, and right where they come together in SketchUp, that point is 0, 0, and that's your origin point per se. So if you were to import any SketchUp models, it would be the same thing. You just want your SketchUp model to be close to that origin point. And I can't stress that enough, how important that is for specifically for animating. Anyways, so in Lumion you have a library of items that you can use. You have trees and plants. You have detailed trees and plants depending on what version of Lumion you're using, 9 or 10, or even 8. You have people, cars, you have some lights, outdoor, indoor elements. There's all kinds of things. But notice I cannot move, if I have outdoor selected, I cannot move this imported item anymore. Nature still can't. I have to have imported items selected to be able to move that. So let's go ahead and place some trees. To do that, I double click on this nature thing, and we can select whatever trees or plants we want from this library. So let's go ahead and place, I don't know, this tree here, and a tree there. And what's cool about Lumion is you can actually place more than one item at a time using different placement methods. So you could use cluster placement that will actually cluster that tree together. You can also use mass placement. Those are the two that I use the most. I'm not super familiar with this point placement, so I'd recommend maybe looking into other tutorial videos. But this mass placement is really handy when you're trying to place a lot of different types of the same thing. So we'll go ahead and place this tree here. So now we've set a line and we can change the number of items on that line, have them all going the same direction if we want to, and orient them in the same direction. This is super, super, super handy when you're placing cars in a parking lot. You can orient them 90 degrees to show them parked in their individual stalls. You can randomize the direction, so this is super handy for plants so that they don't all look like the same tree. And you can start to randomize the spacing and offset them from the line. So we have this large area now with trees. We can increase the number of trees, but we can also add different types of trees to this area as well. So we can start to add like this tree, click here, add this tree, and as you see, it's actually populating as I click. It's randomly placing these different types of trees in this area. And very quickly we've got ourselves a little landscape. You click this check mark and that finalizes that. One other cool tip, if you are using mass placement, if let's say this slider isn't going like very like it's moving too fast for you, you can hold shift down and it will move very, very, very slowly across the different numbers. So that's a fun little tip. I'm trying to think of what else. With people, that placement method works with all kinds of different items. So if you want to show people casually walking around, you can do that with different people. And right now we've only got one person, so you can really, really randomize this. Just add like a ton of different types of people doing different types of things. It's totally up to you what you want to add. Increase the number of items, randomize the direction, and there we go. Let's see, so the other things that Lumion can do, I'll probably end up showing you in future videos. But aside from that, there's select mode, rotate, scale, so you can come in here and use any of these tools to resize or reorient your models. That's pretty cool. So, for instance, I'll use scale, and let's have a giant human being right here. V5 faux fun. And we can orient. Oh, one other handy thing. So if you have something placed really specifically like in the air, kind of like this. Obviously, this is a bad example because we wouldn't have a giant human being here. But if you're using your Move Free tool, you can click on this and hold the mouse, and then press and hold Shift, and he will stay in the same horizontal axis as he's in now. He's at the same height, just in a different location. Otherwise, if you use your Move tool, it'll snap back to the ground. So that's a pretty handy thing to know. Aside from that, there's probably a ton more that I'm not showing here, yeah. Oh, there is one other thing, one other really, really cool thing that you can do. You can add different variations of the same item. So there is, if I go over to import and I select this, one kind of cool thing is I can come right here and import a new variation of, let's say it is, we'll go back to downloads, Lumion test file. We'll just import the same model just for the sake of speed. We'll have to name it something differently. But now I've got variation 1 and variation 2. What's nice about that is I can come in here and let's make it a completely different color. And now I can flip back and forth between variation 1 and variation 2 of that item and use variation control in an animation. So that is super, super, super handy. And you can add stuff to your imports. You can have variations that are completely different from one another. Um, so you can get super, super creative with that. Another super handy thing to know is that we have layers that we're working with. So let's select all of our nature items and let's just change them to layer 2. So now we have layer 1 and layer 2. And if I can hide all of my nature because now it's on layer 2. And layer 1 is all of my imported items. So if I hit that, and there you go. So those are some of the more handy things. One last thing is don't feel like you have to wait until your Revit model is 100% complete before you import an item into Lumion. I see this really, really frequently where people I work with will say, but the Revit model is not done. We can't import it into Lumion yet because then I'll have to reapply all the textures and everything, and that's just simply not true. So just to show you what I'm talking about, let's just re-import this. So I'll go back to Revit and we'll just add some walls. And then we'll re-export it. Lumion, export, export, Lumion test file. We'll override it in the same place. And then we'll go back to Lumion. So now we'll make sure we're in our imported models tab and select this. On variation 1, if I just click on this button right here, it'll re-import that model, and now my walls show up, and it keeps all of my textures that I had before. So you can import this model as many times as you want. Notice if I go to variation 2, those walls aren't there. So there's a lot of really cool, fun things about this software. It's a super powerful program. And one thing that's really neat about this is that it allows you to see what kind of what the final product is going to look like before you even hit render. So anyways, hopefully